Hello, all. I'm Charles, and I'm here with Ashley, Dawson, Zoe, and Anthony to tell you about Save the Children, a beacon of hope to our greatest resource. We're here to enlist our fellow students, and especially our professor, in the fight to give children of the world the support they need and deserve. From the article Child Poverty on UNICEF.org in the year 2022, 1 billion children living in poverty and 356 million living on $1.90 per day are suffering every day from hunger, malnutrition, and disease. Could you walk by these children and not want to do something to help? We used research and statistics from UNICEF, the Borgen Project, CNN, the UK Guardian, and UN.org and NGOmonitor.org to illustrate the depth and immediacy of this crisis. Jacqueline Zembek, in her article Child Poverty in Yemen for the Borgen Project in October of 2021, reported the statistics you see here. In Ukraine, UNICEF reported in October of 2020, 4 million children being driven into poverty. They lack healthcare, safe, clean places to live, and perhaps more importantly, education. Press release after press release batter home the terrible reality of this crisis. The children, our best hope for a better tomorrow, are in grave danger. What can you do about it? The Save the Children organization is out there fighting the battle right now, and we need your help. Over the next few minutes, we'll show you why we need you, what we're doing, and the world we can make if you join us in this battle.
Access to healthcare is a privilege to children globally, and here in Yemen, many disease outbreaks such as cholera and polio have created a hazard to children due to the country's unstable healthcare system. Unfortunately, we've seen high infant and maternal mortality rates. A huge number of hospitals and clinics have been destroyed, and the act of importing necessities such as medical supplies have been blocked from entering the country. According to an article published by the United Nations, 13 out of the 32 million people that make up Yemen's population are affected by this, as 450,000 children alone suffer from potentially fatal acute child malnutrition. An expert testimony given by Dr. Annette Hanselman of the World Health Organization describes the situation as severely overburdened and edging closer to collapse. If mothers are at risk of dying, who would take care of these children?
The second missing ingredient for these children suffering around the world is a lack of a safe home to live in. Here, currently in Indonesia, families have lost homes and have insufficient resources. A combination of aftershocks and heavy rains have created swamp-like conditions in these areas that are now vulnerable to the spreading of infections and diseases such as diarrhea and may be extremely fatal for children. More than 115,000 people may have been affected, including children, according to Save the Children. An expert testimony given by the governor of West Java, Ridwan Kamil, spoke about stating, "The majority of those who died were children." He said, adding that many were students who were taking extra lessons. Natural disasters such as earthquakes are completely unpreventable or predictable. And for children to have been killed in buildings that should be a safe haven of security is unfortunate to the witness of this generation, as reported by The Guardian.
Lastly, one of the most important resources for children is receiving a good education. But here in Ukraine, at least one school every other day has been destroyed since September of last year, resulting in students additionally suffering psychological distress from the ongoing war. Save the Children reported that about 1 million students attend in person, while 1.2 million do hybrid and haven't had stepped foot on campus for over a year. About 1 in 3 schools are open, operating under protective shelters, leaving students fearing for their lives. Meanwhile, hybrid students constantly have to deal with frequent internet and electricity cuts. Millions of Ukrainian students are affected, and a personal testimony from 11-year-old Daniil Solayov describes his experience of overhearing missiles being launched and watching live air defense fights as frightening. He expresses, "I don't want to go into any more shelters," says Daniil. He keeps his headphones on to muffle the sirens. For the Washington Post. And now that we've covered 3 of the biggest leading needs for children living in unjust and unfit living conditions across 3 different areas, here are the solutions for these needs.
Save the Children and the Phillips Foundation are leading efforts to increase the number of trained midwives and supply mobile ultrasound devices to 9 rural community centers in Yemen. This should, in theory, enable more than 1,000 expectant mothers to be reached per month, with those 9 clinics able to scan an additional 13,000 patients within a year. according to the Phillips Foundation. This isn't the only thing Save the Children has been doing to help Yemen, though. They have had an influence in Yemen since 1963. According to Save the Children's Netherlands site, in 2021 alone, they were able to help 2.3 million people in Yemen, of which 1.2 million were children. Of those 1.2 million children, 983,000 children had access to healthcare and received help for malnutrition. 229,000 children were supported in the fight against poverty. 156,000 children had access to education, and 55,000 children were protected against violence and risks such as child marriage and child labor. Countless people have been helped in the decades that Save the Children has been there, and they will continue helping those in need.
In Indonesia, Save the Children have been working here for more than 3 decades. In that time, the organization has responded to almost every natural disaster that has occurred. The newest disaster to strike Indonesia happened on April 14th, less than a month ago, and is a powerful earthquake that hit a heavily populated area in West Java, Indonesia, and has tragically killed hundreds of thousands of people, many of them children. Save the Children. Save the Children's response to this disaster and others like it consists of distributing temporary shelters to those who lost their home, supplying food, water, and medical supplies, family reunification efforts, and the well-being of children. There are an estimated 660,000 people affected by this disaster and desperately need help.
Another ongoing disaster that Save the Children is working on is the war in Ukraine. Children there are having a hard time getting the education they deserve due to frequent attacks because the schools have been destroyed. Allowing access to schooling and learning materials is essential for children. The rebuilding of schools and providing alternate education opportunities like online learning give children in Ukraine a chance to continue their education the best they can despite the ongoing conflict. What's worse is that Russian soldiers are looting schools in the areas they used to occupy. According to the Washington Post, when Russians left, they took the school's laptops, scanners, and printers. In response to this, Save the Children is training more teachers to support the flood of affected children and providing necessary supplies for school that can help children get the best education possible at the moment. With the war still ongoing, Save the Children is doing the best they can to make sure the children of Ukraine are getting the education they need for their future.
Let's talk about the world as we want it to be. Save the Children is actively involved in improving the lives of millions of children around the globe. The dream is for a world where the children most in need have access to the things we take for granted: healthcare, food, shelter, and education.
In Yemen, they train midwives, set up mobile ultrasounds, and enabling clinics to assist thousands of additional mothers each year. Save the Children help mothers stay healthy and alive. In 2021, Save the Children helped over 1 million children receive better health care and help from malnutrition.
In Indonesia, Save the Children rushed to aid of nearly 40,000 children left homeless by a massive earthquake in November 2021. They set up shelters and locations for clean water, distributed family and hygiene kits, and even back-to-school kits. With their help, these children received the shelter and supplies they so desperately needed.
In war-torn Ukraine, Save the Children worked to rebuild infrastructure to get the children back in classrooms. They also set up digital learning centers and provided boots on the ground, distributing school supply kits. They helped children find the hope in a brighter future. Without your support, Save the Children will not have the resources to continue this battle. The World Health Organization reports that the health system in Yemen is edging closer to collapse. The war in Ukraine continues to devastate the education infrastructure. Children will not get the education they desperately need. Without your donations, we cannot fight this battle. The children of the world are in terrible danger.
You've seen the pain and desperate need. An estimated 1 billion children are poor, and in countries like Yemen, Indonesia, and the Ukraine are struggling to provide basic needs like healthcare, safe shelter, and education.
We showed solutions that Save the Children have started to implement. In Indonesia, Yemen, and Ukraine, Save the Children works tirelessly to build a world world where children have access to medical care, shelter, and education. But we've only scratched the surface.
So you've seen the need and we talked about solutions, but here's our point. All the vital work depends on one thing: your support. Without you, none of this is possible. We call on each of and every one of you to join us in the fight today. With your donations and volunteer efforts, Save the Children can fight this battle and win. Together, we can make a world where every child gets the care they need and has access to things that can make them healthy, happy, and let them thrive. In the words of Nelson Mandela, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Thank you all for listening.